You're listening to the Jazz Fan Show here on 97.5, 1280 The Zone, home of your Utah Jazz. Kelby.
That's my name.
I know. It's been a rough week for all of us. Let's just get it out there.
So, yeah, I mean, it's been a rough week for us personally. It's been an okay week for the Utah Jazz, though, right?
Okay week for the Utah Jazz. Some of us feel that way. Some of us don't. That's why we have our good friend, and actually, I mean, he's just part of the show now. It's just not you're not even a guest anymore. It's Mr. Bruce Pitcher.
Well, I appreciate it, you know?
You're the third amigo, man.
That's right. I'm glad for it. I'm glad to be third amigo all the way from Arizona. So that's good.
It's fitting.
That's good.
We love it. So we're just going to start with what everybody's feeling right now and work our way backwards. I know after the Golden State game, I got a message from you just saying you're having a hard time handling this team right now.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
I'm having a hard time. I mean, granted, we won, but it's like I'm just trying to be like, okay, what's the difference between the last 2-year teams and this team right now? Like, I'm trying to convince myself of like what that is. And I'm just not seeing it. I'm seeing the same things. Going on the road to Memphis, losing by 1. Going on the road to the Sacramento, losing by 1. You know, games or Minnesota coming into our Vivint Smart Home Arena and blowing us out. Like, I'm just like, how is this? What is going on? It's like, you know what I mean? How do we go from beating the Bucks to losing to the Timberwolves at home? You know, like, I mean, I don't know.
What are you seeing? Like, is there something specific that you're seeing from the team that's that you think is
just that what we are? Like, we're a 5th seed. You know what I mean? Just like what I'm seeing is we're a good team, but like, have we made that jump? You know, like, that's what I'm not seeing. Is like I see. Okay, we're a good team. But it's like, oh, we're the second round. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
No,
like, I'm not seeing, like, you see, like, the Lakers making the jump. You see the Nuggets, obviously, are ready, I feel like, to take another jump. 2 big wins for them this week. And I'm just seeing us, and I'm like, when are we going to win that game that's, like, that we're supposed to win and then come home and then win the game we're supposed to win, too? Where, like, I don't know. That's just kind of where my frustration is. Like, are we a good team? Yes. Are we going to make the playoffs? Yes. But it's like, are we the team that, like, we're 15 games in, and I want to see, you know, Jerry Sloan used to say, 15 to 20 games, you know what you have. You know, he used to say that. And that's why I'm just kind of like, I don't know. That's why I'm kind of frustrated. Does that make sense? I don't know. You can't. You get outscored by 14 in the fourth quarter by the Golden State Warriors that literally had 4 guys on the bench. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, so I guess I'm on board for some of what you're saying too. I was actually prepared to come into this week and really kind of lay into Conley. And the reason that I was going to lay into him is because the small sample size thing is over. And then also, I think it's fair as fans to really judge somebody that's making $30 million a year and using that chunk of the payroll and expect quite a bit out of them. And so I really had this feeling that, you know, I wanted to come out and say that because I've been thinking it. And then honestly, the last 2 games in particular, I feel like he's the one guy that's kind of turned a corner. He has had next to no turnovers, and I feel like he's kind of found a little bit of cohesiveness with Rudy and a little bit better decision making on some of these, you know, screen and rolls. And so looking at that, this is the first time that I've felt since the beginning that he's actually put a couple solid games together where he could be the guy that we want him to be. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's still averaging, you know, 15 or so points. He's still been running the offense, but I feel it's been inefficient. I feel there's been bad decisions being made, and I feel there was a lot of turnovers. I personally, for Conley right now, feel like he has turned a corner, so I've changed on that this week. However, going back to the rest of the team and what you're saying, I think I understand that thought of and it's really what is expectations that we had going into this season. And that was going to be, and we discussed this actually in the summer, that was going to be one of the difficult things. We haven't had this high of expectations coming into a season for a long time. And so making sure that those are reasonable is one thing, but also wanting to see some evidence that we have improved, that we're going to be able to take that next step. I think it's fair in your assessment that we're not sure still, and we are 15 games in.
Yeah. So, I mean, I agree with you guys a little bit. I think, if we take a step back, though, like Ryan was saying, Mike Conley still averaging is almost 15 points, which is what, in my mind, that's where he should be. If we could get around 15 points a game at him, I think that's perfect. What we need is, the clutch guys like Donovan Mitchell to step up. We've seen Bogey, right? Bogey's been crazy clutch.
No question. Bogey's been in my opinion, I know everyone talks about Rudy and the difference he makes, which is obvious, but Bogey's been, he's been solid. He's been good.
For sure. So really, when we look at it, it's where did we expect the Jazz to be after 15 games? Because right now they're 10-5. That's 67% win percentage, right? I'm good at math. I went to junior high. And really, when you look at that, that's on pace. This is for you, by the way, Bruce. That's on pace for 55 wins exactly.
Okay, all right. Maybe that's why I'm a little more passionate about this.
Right.
Because when I see us lose 1-point games to the Grizzlies and 1-point games to the Kings, we'd be so ahead of schedule right now. I'd be just floored.
Yeah. I think that's what concerns me, to be honest, is we've won the amount of games that we were supposed to win, but I feel like we're losing to teams that we're supposed to beat.
Yes, thank you.
And anytime you see that, it bugs you, right? It bothers me every single time. That Memphis game, I didn't sleep that night because it was so painful.
Yeah, it really was, because it was okay, here we go. We're taking control. Wait, what are we doing? And now granted, I will say this, and we talked about this, all of us talked about this at the beginning of the year. What if Ed Davis gets hurt? Because it was the moment, if you guys remember, the moment Rudy went on the bench in that game, it was they just had open lanes. And Ed Davis was that guy that we had out there to make it the difference, And, it showed, I feel like that game, it showed the most where we didn't have a backup center for Rudy. Timmy Bradley's all right, but if you guys remember, the moment he stepped up, we got the lead up to 8, and then he went out to get his typical rest, and boom, 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 next thing you know, we're down by 1. Yeah. And I was just oh.
No, and I feel like that honestly has kind of been our biggest thing is we're not our backup center. He broke his leg, so he's out. And he was kind of the rebound defensive guy for that second unit, right? Mm-hmm. And so we're not getting the rebounds that we need to get. When that second unit comes on, it's not what we need it to be. We're seeing Jeff Green. That's the adjustment that they made. Jeff Green is playing the backup center. And that's kind of in these past couple games when the other teams have been making their runs back to get back into the game is because we're lacking that size there, and we can't really play Tony Bradley because of how lost everyone seems, right?
Exactly.
So this plays into, and I think this is where the way we're feeling comes together. We have the money that has been spent on improving the first team. So tons of expectations. I just talked about Mike Conley. We just talked about Bogey. And they come to the team and bring some unique skills and some unique things that we didn't have before that should be upgrades. I think most of them are. In some cases, they just haven't been as dramatic as we thought. And that is what leads to the deficiencies on the bench. We spent money bringing in these guys that are going to increase the first team and some of the things going on there. But we really did have to give up some things with the second unit. And because we gave those up, an injury to Ed Davis means that much more. It is that much harder to overcome because we don't have the depth when that second team comes in. And I hated watching and hearing the Golden State Warriors coming back on a Jazz team that has them down by 20-something.
It was 20, exactly.
Right?
But yeah.
Notice as well, that comeback happens right when the second team gets in there. And you've got your starters who are planning on playing a game tomorrow night and a coach who's probably wants to keep him out for the rest of the game when they're at that point. So, they've come down. They feel like they've done their part. And then all of a sudden, Golden State goes on a run, and all those guys that were going to get rest, that were on the bench, have to come back in and try to hold on.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's funny because it seemed like they were up 17, and he actually kind of put in some starters there just to kind of try and put it away. But it was like in their head, they were ready to sit and rest for the next game, right?
Yeah.
So it was almost like the whole team just shut down in that fourth quarter, and it was it was a ridiculous run. Like they went on a 21-6 run or something. The Warriors did. It was crazy.
It was crazy. And now we're going to see a Pelicans team that's on a 3-game win streak, feeling confident, coming into our team back-to-back, which this is the game, though. These are the games that we were talking about that we should win still. Like, we need a team that's, doesn't have their first-round draft pick in Zion, and we need to win this game. It's just – I think the difference is we need to win the games we're supposed to win. That's my biggest thing right now.
Yeah.
We need to win the games we're supposed to win. That's my biggest thing.
And if we don't, you're going to have a Denver Broncos tattoo.
Exactly. On
the inside of your thigh, right?
Yes.
Oh,
That's why I think I'm more frustrated. Because I'm like, even if we would have won one of those games, the Kings are – because I kind of figured the Kings game was going to be tough because they hadn't won a game. They're finally at home, da-da-da-da-da. I was like, okay, they're going to play desperate basketball. But the Grizzlies game, Kelly, I agree with you, man. That one just was like, what do we do? I've never been like, what is going on? And
there was a lot that went into it, right? It was Mike Conley's return to Memphis, and Ja Morant was just incredible, right? Ja Morant was, it seemed like trying to make it so that people in Memphis didn't miss Mike Conley anymore, And then there was the foul at the end that they missed and said wasn't a foul, even in the last 2-minute report, which, it shouldn't come down to that. But when it does, it should be called correctly.
It should be called. It should be called regardless.
And that's a 1-point loss for the Utah Jazz. And it almost hurts more because it's almost like there was a chance to win it the whole time. So it's like you're putting forth all the same energy and everything, and then it's just kind of taken from you.
Yeah, and when you're sitting there at 11-4, you're kind of like, okay, we're fine, And it's like, because we have a tough road trip coming up. Back to the Bucks, back to the Pacers, and once again, back to the Grizzlies. Gosh.
So let me ask you guys this. What has been more surprising? The defense that is ultimately in a top 1, 2, or 3 in the league right now, depending on where you're looking and what day it is, or the offense, which really hasn't broken the top 10.
Or come close, right?
Yeah. I mean, what's more surprising to you two?
Who wants to go first?
You go first, Bruce.
I think it's the offense. It's like I was watching NBA TV the other night, and they were talking they don't even – it was weird. They were like, I don't even know what to think of this Jazz team right now. That's honestly what they said. They were like, I just don't even know. Because it's like, okay, what are we going to get? I think it's more surprisingly the offense, and I think that's why I'm frustrated by saying we're the same team. It's like because we were streaky last year. So I feel like, okay, when are we going to hit these threes? Okay, there's no Kyle Korver coming off the bench. Okay, is Crowder going to be on tonight or not? Is Conley going to be on tonight or not? Is Joe going to be on tonight or not? It's just like, so I feel like we're the same team. And when we're paying this much money, I'm like, we need to be as much money as we're paying in, we should be a top 3 team. That's what I think.
Yeah.
That's the way the money we're putting in this team, we should be in the top 3.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest thing. And maybe it's just the expectations. I'm happy, but we, all 3 of us, we're super fans. So we want a title, man. I want a title. And it's like, I want to watch the team that's going to be contenders and that's what I want. I don't know. So I guess I know we're 15 games in and I'm a passionate fan. So maybe I'm over the top, but I don't know. I just want to see more right now.
Yeah. So here's this kind of a random question, but is it weird that I can't even imagine it happening? It's something that I my brain can't even wrap itself around, a title actually happening. But so just back to your question, Ryan, it's obviously, I think the offense is kind of a glaring issue that we've had, right? And the past 2 seasons, there's been a trade made in the middle of the year, and that's kind of solved it for some reason or another, right? So, I mean, I think that is the biggest surprise. I am genuinely surprised at how well the defense is still doing. And, I mean, it's not like completely out of left field with Rudy Gobert returning and stuff, but I thought there would definitely be a drop-off. But it definitely seems like the problems are just really on that offensive side.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so question that I heard, and you know what? I listen to a lot of different Jazz podcasts out there because there seems to be like one popping up every day now.
Yep.
Some of them are great, some of them are okay, but there's tons of it out there right now. So hearing some of the input, hearing some of the things that are being said out there is interesting. One of the really interesting questions that I heard, and this is on Locke's podcast. Everybody, if you haven't listened to Locked On Jazz, I mean, that's where you need to start. He always comes on here on The Zone, the voice of the Jazz. Awesome podcast, especially if you're interested in numbers and looking at this team in some ways you haven't. The question was asked to him, is Quinn Snyder a good offensive coach?
That's interesting.
That's a good question. I mean, do you want me to answer?
Yeah.
I think so. I think he is. I just think that he puts defense first. It's almost like a good old Kyle Whittingham up there, right? He's always focused on his defense before his offense, and the offense will come when it does, but the defense is focused, right?
And we'd always say if Utah ever got a quarterback, they'd be good, and Huntley's been playing good, so that's probably why they are where they are. So
They finally got that offense, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, I mean, I think he's a great coach, and I think that he has the guys that we need, and I don't know. Honestly, like it seems like some nights no one can touch us, Sure. And even some just stretches, like that fourth quarter against the Timberwolves round 2, right?
Yeah, even he said after the game was like, okay, that's what, even he kind of said without a way, saying that's what I expected this team to be. Like he even said that.
Yeah. So really
without
it's
saying
like,
that.
It's kind of just coming down to whether or not we can make our shots. And that usually trends upward throughout the year, doesn't it?
Listen, I never even entertained the thought of that question. But once I heard it, it made me start thinking a little bit more about this.
Yeah,
you know
too.
what? He hasn't had the tools to be a high efficiency offense. So, if he has, or if he is a great offensive coach, he hasn't had the players to actually, maximize his system. So my answer right now, personally, is we're going to see. We're going to see after this year, we're going to see after next year if he is a great offensive coach like, I believe him to be. And the defensive thing is never going to change. That's always going to be a priority.
Yeah.
But we go back to what's important in the NBA. And we go back to what is going to win in the NBA. And the Jazz have hung their hat on defense. And we're doing it again. I think we finally got some offensive power. But those are extremely interesting questions. If the offense is what is going to get the wins, then maybe we're focusing in the wrong area. I don't know. If defense really is important, right, and it was important to all the coaches, Rudy would have been in the All-Star game last year. Luka on Dallas is getting MVP conversation, which and his numbers are incredible. He's only 20, and it's impressive. But he's got his Mavericks to about the same record as we have here. On the defensive side, we've got an anchor in Rudy who has been the one really solid everything on our team so far. And some of the numbers that he's going to put up again this year from a defensive standpoint, they're keeping our team at 10-5. So, I mean, should he be considered for an MVP?
No.
It's until he starts dribbling the ball down the court. I mean, other than that, like, I about lost it on him when he came down the court tonight. But, we still lower. I mean, after tonight, we're the lowest opponent's points per game in an offensive generated NBA year. The key is we just got to get in the top 10 offensively. We get in the top 10 offensively, by the end of the year, we're going to be a top 3 team. So maybe we do, because the last 2 years we started off slow. So maybe this year we technically are starting off slow and our offense comes around and we all of a sudden are rolling again. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
we've started faster this year than we have the past couple, right?
I mean, yeah, and if you think about it, I said for the tattoo bet, I was like, we just got to have that great home record and stay about 500 for the road. Well, we're 7-1 at home. We're 3-4 on the road. So, I mean, we're like you said, Kelby, at the beginning, we're on pace. We're on pace.
almost exactly on pace.
Yeah, almost exactly on pace. We need to sneak out a couple of these road games coming up in Philly, in Toronto. We need to win one of these tough ones.
We had a good little East Coast road trip, didn't we, last year? Isn't that kind of where things started kind of rolling for us last year?
Yeah, it did. Yep. I mean, but we got a tough road trip.
Yeah.
Bucks, Pacers, Philly, Raptors. I mean, that's tough.
Time to mow down that Eastern Conference, you know?
Yeah. The soft Eastern Conference.
Let me ask you really quick, what is your biggest surprise of the year so far in terms of the Jazz? And that could be a positive thing or a negative thing. Is there somebody who's disappointed you a little bit, or is there somebody who's outperforming what you thought they would? Both of you. This is a question for both of you. The other two
Ryan, you want to go
show.
first? You want me to go?
Yeah, so I'm pretty disappointed in Ingles so far. I really thought moving to the the second unit and not having to play in a position that, I mean, last year and the past few years he's been asked to do everything, and some of that is not where I think he's most comfortable, or they don't play to his strengths, and so I really expect him on the second team to be a leader and help bring that second team up. We talked about how we don't have a solid reserves coming off the bench. We don't have some of the firepower that we did before, and so Joe, to me, was going to be one of the guys that made that second unit work. And he hasn't been terrible. He hasn't, been a liability at all. But I feel like, hey, it's another guy. We just added another year onto his contract, $14 million. And I appreciate that as an organization, the Jazz are loyal to these guys that are loyal to us. I also appreciate that, no matter who you are, they're going to have some streaks where they play good and they play bad. But I think it's fair. Like today, we're having this conversation about how we feel as fans. And it's okay to not be, sunshine and rainbows about everything, because some of it isn't, right?
Yes.
Kelby and I had Britton Johnson on a while back, and I asked him, is it okay to boo your own team? Is it okay for us to boo the Jazz? Personally, for me, I don't see myself doing that. I've been in the arena when it's happened, but Britton's answer was that, it is okay. Everybody that comes to the game is spending their hard-earned money to come and watch a performance, right? And sometimes these guys aren't going to perform. And sometimes that's maybe their fault because of preparation. Sometimes it's just what happens, right? Yeah. But I think it's okay for us, and we come in here most weeks and focus on all the positive, which is fun because that's what gets us excited.
Right.
But this week, just 15 games in, done with small sample. We had biggest expectations we've ever had coming into this season. So I'm in the middle. I'm not excited. I'm still hopeful, so I haven't lost hope. But I'm kind of disappointed that we haven't really hit our stride earlier. And I thought, I anticipated that we would be in a better spot sooner.
You know what's funny about Britton Johnson, that when we had that interview, is that he said that the one player on the Jazz that he thought might take it personally was Joe Ingles.
He's right.
So maybe should we just cut that part out, or just in case he hears it? Or now, what about you, Bruce? Are you on that same page, or has it been something else?
Yeah, I'm on the same page, because you look at 3 points the last 2 games, 6 points total. I mean, it's just like, where's that Joe that was just like getting in people's face? It's not like his minutes are just drastically down. And also, I always say this, like, people are like, oh, how are you so hard on the Jazz and then call yourself a real passionate fan? And I'm like, that's exactly why. because I do put so much time. I do put so much energy. I do put so much, like, I put tattoos on the line. So I have every right to be like, you know what? When I don't think it's going well, I can say that. And that's the way I feel about us three. And that's why people are going to love this, because it's literally, they're going to be sitting in their cars or wherever they are listening and being like, yeah. But we also know that we have the potential. We wouldn't be as upset if we didn't believe we have the potential to be something. And Joe Ingles is, like, right now is not performing what he is. And he's even said it on DJ and PK where he's like, I'm still trying to get used to my role. So let's get used to that role a little bit quicker. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
I like it.
I mean,
Yeah. You're firing us all up,
Hey,
man.
fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a choice. I could have either got a vacation home in a cabin, or I could have bought all this jazz gear and filled up this studio.
yeah.
Right? I chose the jazz
Exactly.
gear.
That's an investment, man.
Exactly.
Some of us are
Exactly.
actually, like, monetarily invested in this team. So
Yeah.
I guarantee
We're
I'm paying.
fans.
Hey, I'm paying for at least a 30th of Conley's contract.
Yeah. There you go.
Honestly,
Exactly.
I think it's fair. I think it's okay where we're coming from. Bruce, we love that you're willing to come on. We love that you're willing to be real and to talk jazz with us, because that's what we do as fans. Good, bad. We're here to talk about the Jazz. And
Yes.
thanks for coming on again. Everybody else, stick around. We're going to do a little bit more talking about the Jazz when we get back here on 97.5, 1280 The Zone.